So there are many different ways of working with the human hand and evaluating. One of the key things that I look for first is just right here, is I want to see if the wrist can drop underneath the knuckles and come above it. So you can see that that's not fun, per se. The drop is also not great. So anyone here should be able to go, up and down. So this is where, again, I don't like to necessarily go with hand reflex issues, because depending on where that person's relationships of the wrist is going to affect that hand reflex. So the fact that, again, especially coming down, that wrist is really heavy, that lower arm. Mm-hmm. The secondary to work on then would be the shoulder, because going all the way out, if I wanted to, I'm not picking up the elbow either. So do you see where it's hanging off the shoulder as well as? So, and then what I also like to look for, I always like to say, it's like if there was a ball that went, and you just before you catch it. But I always ask people, do they do Wii Fitness? And they say no. And I'm like, all these things are on there. You actually have to stand on the board and pretend you're balancing a marble and get it down into the chute without it going off the edge.
That's cool.
Now, if I wanted to give you a lesson more and the lower arm. Now, first of all, what I'll be looking for is, this feels to me like you somehow possibly broke your arm, or you had a pretty decent injury in the arm. But you're looking at me, so the answer is probably no.
I never broke it.
Was it ever still like in a sling, or you should have been, or maybe didn't tell mom and dad?
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, no, what I'm getting at, you see how hard it is for me to really, like, this is like hardcore, that this is still, it only goes to here, right? Yeah. So within the ulna and the radius, there's a sheath of myofascial tissue, and if that gets damaged, where there's scar tissue in it type thing, it really contracts those two bones. There can be other reasons around it, so lots of times if you've broken the arm, then you somehow have damaged that tissue, but you could also had a good sprain or rip the wrist kind of thing.
I think I actually, I remember straining a muscle.
Of course, the one day I don't bring my iPad, I'll show you but I'll show you on Monday what that is. But it connects the ulna and the radius. Two, it's also taught that the ulna doesn't rotate, only the radius, which I'd like to know how that's even possible, because as far as I'm concerned, they both can rotate quite nicely. So anyway, those are the few couple of things that I look at. There's no muscles in the fingers and the hands, so I'm not really concerned per se by stretching out the hand or doing any of that kind of stuff. I can tell by just this little side to side how the thumb function is. So let's say tighten this hand. So see if I go side to side, you see how the thumb does not want to fall down off the hand kind of thing. So release here versus here. Do you see how there's more of a rotation kind of thing? Now I get it if you're right-handed versus left-handed people, right-handed people don't feed themselves with the left hand and all that. They usually used to be, you turn your wrist a lot for watching because you always have the watch on the and nobody wears a watch anymore either. So, and then the last thing, but most people don't have, is see how I can make the ulna and the radius uneven, almost like a pull and a pull. But see, I can get pretty substantial with mine.
Oh, yeah.
But most people can't. So if I'm reaching, see how much I can get with my ulna and the radius? Most people are like this.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to teach doing the lessons, movement lessons, because they want to turn from here versus from here. So again, see, I have more real estate.
Yeah.
But again, if I was ball playing, all of those kind of things, I don't care what you're doing. You want more of this versus this.
Mm-hmm.
And next time you go out and you're watching those little, like, 11-year-olds, you'll see who is trying to catch a ball like this versus the ones that have more.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer, too, you really see it. Like, they put the goalie, and they want the goalie to have tight abs. Well, if I have tight abs, I can't go after any ball.
Yeah.
That's a bad coach. But that's the problem is, you usually get a bad coach in high school, then you're not going to have a career because they want you to. So I told the girl, I said, tighten your abs whenever they're looking, and when they're not, then let them go because then you can dodge, you can go. The invention of the six-pack ab was a killer because how they naturally happen to someone, that means the muscles are just responding to the movement. But people that make the six-pack abs, or especially even sick people do the surgery, you're never going to have the movement.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up really with a bad back. Because the human body was meant to have more engaged spinal muscles, not stomach muscles. So when you transfer, especially if the back is on a weaker movement than the stomach, and you transfer it, so then the brain gets confused and it starts transferring spinal movements down through the stomach, and it messes up your system pretty bad.
That makes sense.
Just like we're not supposed to have wider shoulder girdle than our internal rotation of our if you look at pelvis is much smaller in a chimpanzee and especially gorilla. They have a bigger, wider shoulders. So when you also pelvis. Change their body type. There's a lot of different body types that I can tell you about. A tight chest cavity, guaranteed anxiety, because it's like wearing a corset and it'll throw off your breath.
I never even think about it.
So you can just do this little bit, and you've already. Yes, we've had a conversation, but at the same time, gone into an evaluation of just basic hand function. Too different already. Yeah.